Welcome to TV Guide Close-Up. I'm your host, Madison Michelle. In this episode, we share our exclusive interview with the one and only William Shatner. Over the next hour, the Emmy Award winner opens up about his former co-stars.
Give her a little time. Really? She'll be playing the Wicked Witch of the East.
Takes us on a trip to the Twilight Zone.
And it is for real, and it's happening. And if you don't follow it, you could die.
Reveals his thoughts on TV's most controversial kiss.
There was some talk, if I remember, about some stations in the South closing, not wanting to show it, but it didn't seem real.
We'll also find out what life was like after Star Trek was canceled.
My hard times came about because of my personal life.
And the Shat answers your questions.
I was wondering, what was your most embarrassing moment?
If you could have dinner with anyone, dead or alive, who would it be?
I would like to have dinner with God.
That's all coming up next on Close-Up.
All right.
William Shatner plays a powerhouse attorney on Boston Legal. His character, Denny Crane, presents a formidable presence in the courtroom, much like Shatner himself does on set.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Of course, it's intimidating initially, but everyone's.
Really?
It is.
What? Like what?
You know, and I come on, and you're very seasoned and famous, but it's very nice. It's a wonderful feeling. I feel very honored to be in such wonderful company.
He's hilarious on the show, and now that they've added Candice Bergen onto the show as his not actually love interest, but lust interest. He's always lusting.
One minute you couldn't get enough of me, next you lose interest. What happened, Shirley? I need to know.
They invented color television.
His performance on Boston Legal also brought newfound respect from his peers, who would award the actor with an Emmy.
How come you didn't bring your Emmy in with you?
Everybody's after it.
It's heavy. It's heavy. We did our work
and she won't carry it.
He took home his very first Golden Globe that year as well. All accolades aside, there's still no doubt about how William Shatner will go down in television history.
He will always be Captain Kirk.
I'm always going to think of Captain Kirk and Beam Me Up, Scotty.
Star Trek became such a cult phenomenon that it spawned spin-off after spin-off and countless movies. It seemed that Shatner would be forever typecast as the fearless captain of the USS Enterprise. But with Boston Legal, he's created a brand new character that audiences won't soon forget.
I think people were shocked by his resurgence. And now, of course, he's getting all the respect as an actor that he really deserves, that probably didn't get as Captain Kirk.
But to be fair, it wasn't as if Mr. Scott beamed him to another planet for all these years. Shatner did keep himself busy with personal projects and smaller roles.
You might think I've disappeared, but in fact, I'm doing the most creative work of my life.
Shatner reappeared into the public eye with parts in both Miss Congeniality films starring Sandra Bullock, and then once again when a couple of other Hollywood heavyweights came calling.
Then suddenly, Robert De Niro and Eddie Murphy make this movie called Showtime, which was hilariously funny. And Shatner is the cop. And he does this bit where he rolls over the car, and it's so hilarious. And you're thinking, is that really William Shatner? I mean, what is William Shatner doing? This guy's hilarious. And that's it. It just started. That roll started the ball rolling, so to speak.
Have you got a problem with that?
With a career spanning over 50 years, it's easy to say that William Shatner not only has endured the test of time, but has gotten even better because of it.
I'm leading the life. This is a great moment.
So, Bill, it's just, I first want to say it's just such an honor to sit down with you. I mean, you have done everything in this business from acting to producing to writing. You've been on television since the 50s. It's just, you're a legend, and you're definitely a TV legend, so thank you so much for sitting down with us.
I'm very impressed.
You're impressed with your resume?
Oh, it sounds awfully good. I don't know where it came from.
I know when I was just looking over your whole body of work and how diverse it was.
I was looking over
Well, we were looking over each other's whole body. Well, this body looked a little different.
Yeah, so's mine.
What attracted you to Boston Legal?
The talents involved. David Kelly is a genius, and I knew his reputation, although I don't watch much hourly television or a half hour. But I knew of his reputation as a writer. He'd won, for example, an Emmy for comedy and an Emmy for drama in the same season, having written all 44 scripts. And so it was his talents, and then his description of the role. I thought that could be very interesting.
Let's talk about some of the amazing cast that you work with on that show. You and Candice Bergen have such great chemistry. Did you guys know each other before you did the show, and what's it like working with her?
I had done a movie with her, and of course I've admired her for a long time. She's a wonderful actress, but what I didn't know was what a wonderful woman she is. She's a great woman. She's not only a talented actress, but she's a photographer, and she's interviewer, sort of an intellect, an inquiring mind, and with good education and great breeding, but this sense of humor that she has, this laugh and this intelligence, and she's a remarkable woman whom I now admire more, having worked with her, than I did with all those wonderful films she did.
What a great thing to be able to say. And of course, you have Mr. James Spader.
And James Spader has become a real friend, and it's a delight to work with him, a delight to speak with him. We laugh a lot, and the longer we're together in enforced marriage of playing a lot of scenes together, the more we enjoy each other, the closer, the more intimate we've become in revealing ourselves to each other, and it's delight, because he's very reserved. He's very shy, reserved, personal person, and he is reluctant to divulge of himself unless he trusts you. So it's become a matter, and same with me. So it's a wonderful discovery.
After all these years in the business, what do those Emmys coming now, late in your career, mean to you personally?
Well, just it's very meaningful, dependent on how late it is. If this is the last, if this is like the alarm is about to ring, then it's really meaningful. If this is a sleep that will go on for, because the idea is that we're dreaming now, and then reality comes in when you die. If I had to die tomorrow, those rewards are great, mostly meaningful. If I die the day after tomorrow, every day longer I live than tomorrow, it dilutes the meaningfulness, because there's the expectation that that's not all, that there'll be other great roles written in Boston, great moments written in Boston legal, with people like David Kelly, whose artistry is so prevalent in the writing.
When we come back, William shares a very special skill.
You do that so well. Goosebumps.
Maybe it's the air conditioning.
And later on, find out why the star is getting such a workout.
I have run down more streets and over more roofs than almost anybody in the city.
There's more Close-Up after the break. Hi there, I'm Madison Michelle. Welcome back to TV Guide's Close-Up tribute to William Shatner. Now, before America came to know and love him as Captain Kirk on Star Trek, the future Starfleet commander had already made his mark on TV by starring in 2 of the most memorable episodes of The Twilight Zone ever.
Well, I don't really know what was so extraordinary about Rod Serling and the shooting of those shows. Rod Serling I had worked with in live television out of New York, along with some of the writers and the people he was working with. He brought them all to Hollywood for Twilight Zone, but he had been a force along with John Frankenheimer and that ilk, been a force in live television out of New York. So when we all arrived here, pursuing the work, because it had begun to fade out of New York, there was this show called Twilight Zone, which they asked me to do, and then they asked me to do it again. So there wasn't anything extraordinary that I could tell you that was above and beyond any other of the many shows that I've done. It was a charming script, and especially the one on the wing was sort of all about me reacting to this gremlin that may or may not have existed on the wing of an airplane. But the real question is, why did those two shows last more than perhaps any of the others? And certainly of the top few, what were the universal characteristics of that show? And I don't know if I could put my finger on it. There is a sort of unspoken fear of flying. If God meant us to do this, he'd have given us wings, sort of thing. Most people have that. And so this dealt with that fear. There's something on the wing, and I don't know what it is, but this plane is going to fall out of the sky, I just know it. So I think that is the universality of that show. Mm-hmm. The other one, which is the little soothsayer inside the machine, you put a coin in and you get a forecast of the future. Your horoscope starts to be real. Suddenly, today is the day when you must, and it's happened. And the next day it happens again. And suddenly the horoscope is really your horoscope. And it is for real, and it's happening. And if you don't follow it, you can die.
That's creepy. You do that so well. Goosebumps.
Maybe it's the air conditioning.
Let me take you back for a second, because we brought some things to take you down on memory lane, and I'm just going to take you down this memory lane because you have so many of these, maybe more than anyone. I'm not really sure, but there you are, Captain Kirk. Just tell me any...
It's a Star Trek Memories, which is a book that made the bestseller list.
That's true.
Actually.
That's true. How do you feel when you look at these pictures of you as Captain Kirk?
I don't know what happened. How did I look like that now?
Oh, it's the aging process that none of us can escape.
I know, but when you see people, like when they were young, and then when they were older, like that's 40 years later, it's like old age makeup. When I was that age and they put old age makeup on me, I'd look in the mirror like, oh my God, I'm certainly not going to look like this. And now I look like that.
Oh.
Old age makeup. Actually, I do look like that, and this is old age makeup. Oh. And that makeup lady is just the worst person I have ever met.
Cruel.
So cruel.
Absolutely cruel. So let's see what else we have here. How about these guys? Take you back?
Well, yes. Leonard Nimoy and Patrick Stewart. Leonard is a dear friend of mine. He's gotten older. He's really old.
Yeah, how did that
Patrick Stewart, he calls me every so often from England. And he has this phony English accent, you know. He's really an American from Caughnawaga, which is an Indian village in Canada, so I don't know how he got there. But he'll call us off, and so he really takes good care of himself. Of course, one is mesmerized by his bald head, so one doesn't look at his face too long.
Ouch, Mr. Shatner doesn't pull any punches, does he? Well, when we come back, William tells us what he really thinks of another co-star.
Give her a little time.
Really? You never know.
The Wicked Witch of the East.
Well, she's definitely had some longevity.
30 years.
Thanks for tuning into this special edition of Close-Up. I'm Madison Michelle. We continue our exclusive interview with William Shatner by asking him about the TV series that endeared him to millions. And no, it's not Star Trek. After that, and no, I'm not talking about Boston Legal either. Okay, here's a little hint.
T.J. Hooker was a program that was on for five and something years, which had me running around Los Angeles. I have run down more streets and over more roofs than almost anybody in the city. And I was working with somebody who had a phobia. They were terrified of birds, and that's what's on roofs. So anytime we had a scene to go up on a roof, he'd say, "Oh my God, there's a pigeon. There's a that's a wren." And he'd be frightened to death, and I'd have to hold him gently in my arms. T.J. Hooker.
You were able to work with a very young Heather Locklear.
She was.
Yeah, what was that like?
She was a good-looking girl then. Now she's a sensational-looking woman. Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was great.
And she's also someone that's had a career that, not as long as yours, but really lasted.
Give her a little time.
Really?
She'd be
You never know.
The Wicked Witch of the East.
Well, she's definitely had some longevity.
30 years.
Yeah. Could you see the seeds of someone that was not only obviously good-looking and talented, but really was a pro?
No, it's hard to see the seeds with Heather. Mm-hmm. One can't look past the flower.
I've read, I've heard that you have a love-hate relationship with Star Trek, or mixed feelings.
No hate. Star Trek's terrific.
How do you feel looking back, and do you consider it the show that put you on the map in entertainment?
Well, I think you'd have to say that, but it took a long time. When Star Trek started, whatever year that was, 67, I think, it went on for 3 years, was of moderate success, and then stopped. And that was the end of that gig, and on to the next thing, whatever that was going to be. And it was only years later that when in syndication it became more popular, and the management at Paramount, which had changed 2-3 times since the making of the series, decided to make some films. And the films were, again, pretty successful. When you make $100 million in a film, I think that used to be, at any rate, the line between really successful and fairly successful. And we almost made $100 million each of those movies, so it was pretty successful. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And there was a built-in audience, so you had to be careful how much money you spent on the film in order to make money, because they invariably came within a narrow range of so many $1 million of the gross. So, you know, it was successful, but it wasn't a huge success. But so that it's difficult to estimate on Star Trek. Mm-hmm. Captain Kirk became a popular figure, mm-hmm. And as a result, I was in the public eye and went from there. Mm-hmm. So yes, it was the beginning of being a celebrity.
Do you remember a time when you really realized, hey, this show really is going to go down as becoming one of the most popular television shows ever? No, that never happened, because it was only incremental. You know, it was 3 years and out, and then a year or so later it played somewhere, and there were no residual checks to mark that advent, because residuals stopped after, if I remember correctly, after 5 replays, and by that time the network had replayed them 5 times. So when it really went into syndication, there was no income for the actors to compensate for the usage of their face and voice on public television. The money all went to Paramount, who and movie studios account for it in count for their income in various creative ways, mm-hmm. So that nothing ever came back to anybody who had any percentages of it, and then it became successful slowly. Mm-hmm. The merchandising became slowly successful, and the series in syndication. Then another series was made, and then these movies were made, and so it was a slow ebb, a slow flow, mm-hmm. To success. And so it was hard to find the high water mark.
Well, it may have been hard to pin down the high point, but when we come back, William tells us about Star Trek's most controversial moments.
There was some talk, if I remember, about some stations in the South closing, not wanting to show it, but it didn't seem real.
And later, the actor opens up about his post-Trek years.
My hard times came about because of my personal life.
Thanks for tuning in to TV Guide's Close-Up, tribute to William Shatner. I'm your host, Madison Michelle. When Star Trek hit the air in 1966, it was during a time of great social change. People took to the streets to protest for both equal rights and civil rights. Although the sci-fi series tackled some of these issues head-on, not even Shatner himself was prepared for the controversy a simple kiss would cause.
Can you tell us about that first interracial kiss, and did you know how important that was going to be? And I actually heard that Leonard Nimoy was supposed to do that scene. Is that true?
I think it was more like Leonard wanted to do that scene. He's so jealous of me anyway. No, nobody had any idea of what was happening. You know, there was this beautiful girl. Her skin happened to be darker than mine, but she was a beautiful woman. So I didn't have any, nobody had any compunctions about kissing, you know. Grasped the opportunity, I always say. And so I did. I grasped that opportunity and I was restrained. That was it. Leonard restrained me. But nobody did have any idea. There was some talk, if I remember, about some stations in the South closing, not wanting to show it, but it didn't seem real. Because, I mean, how unracial this kiss was. I mean, who cared? It was this beautiful girl.
Of course. Did you guys get any feedback from the fans about it?
Well, yeah, no, not that I remember. I mean, everybody was fine with it. It's been made more of, I think, than really existed. It was dramatized by the closure of the southern stations who wouldn't show that particular episode of Star Trek. I don't, I mean, it was so foolish. But those were the times, I guess. It certainly, it's changed a great deal now, and it's part of the history of it.
What's your relationship with Leonard like these days?
He's probably one of my dearest friends. I haven't seen him the last several months. He's very rich, and he's living a life of debauchery, I believe. But he's taking pictures of naked women and publishing them and professing that it's art, but it's really salacious on his part, I believe. But he's really vitally interested in his life that doesn't involve acting, strangely enough. I've asked him to perform, to come on Boston Legal, and he doesn't want to do any more like that. And so that was very sad for me, because I wanted to poke fun at him again. He's getting so artistic and so popular in his new endeavors that he's going to be hard to poke fun at soon. It's going to be like Einstein or something. But Leonard is, we've been through a lot, very similar things, similar birthdays, similar careers, similar difficulties, similar marriages. We're very much alike.
Okay, gang, hang on to your seats. In just a couple of minutes, William goes to the great beyond.
Maybe it's an out-of-body experience. Anyway, I had to imagine it, and that was frightening a little.
Thanks for checking out my exclusive one-on-one interview with Emmy Award winner William Shatner. When Star Trek was canceled in 1969, the actor was just 38 years old. And although he's doing quite well now, after the series went off the air, William faced some very tough times.
Now I've read that you had hard times after that, after Star Trek, and that you were
invariably
living.
People in series do, at least then. There was an estimate of how long a period of time it would take to generate something else. That really, my hard times came about because of my personal life. I've always worked at something. You know, I wasn't particularly well paid, but I had to work at more things in order to sustain the standard of living for my family and me. But but I sort of always worked at something, as writing or directing or acting. So.
How did it feel to have your character die in the last Star Trek movie?
I wrote a book immediately after the death of Captain Kirk, suggesting a way of bringing Captain Kirk back to life. And for a brief, brilliant moment, it was being considered. Then it became the first book of a series of books that I wrote about Star Trek and Captain Kirk and all that kind of thing. What would have happened to Captain Kirk had he been kept alive was the series of 9 or 10 books that I wrote, adventures. But this book suggested that Captain Kirk lived by coming back in strange ways. The most meaningful thing about the death of Captain Kirk was my having to envision my own death, what it would be like. What it would be like to cross that margin when you're still conscious enough to realize you're going to die. Just before the lights go out, if the lights do go out. Maybe the lights go on. Just before the lights go on, maybe nothing happens. Maybe, see, I mean, the mystery of death is scary because it could hurt. On the other hand, maybe it doesn't because your body goes into shock, I would think, and maybe it doesn't hurt. So you're like looking down, like a lot of people think by whatever the word is for lack of oxygen, your mind plays tricks on you. You have this sense of being removed from your body and looking down on people have that out-of-body experience. So maybe it's an out-of-body experience. Anyway, I had to imagine it, and that was frightening a little.
Well, hopefully he won't have to worry about that for many years to come. Okay, put down that remote because when we come back, William plays possum, literally.
Well, being a possum, the possum final defense is to play dead. So he dies with a Shakespearean, in a Shakespearean manner, you know.
Welcome back to TV Guide Close-Up. Since making a name for himself with the Star Trek franchise, William Shatner has continued to branch out. He won over a whole new legion of fans with his award-winning work on the ABC drama series Boston Legal. And in the last couple of years, he's even released 2 animated features, Over the Hedge and The Wild. I spoke with the actor about these movies and what he brought to the parts.
Tell me about what your character's like and what they told you before you signed on.
Well, being a possum, the possum final defense is to play dead. So he dies with a Shakespearean, in a Shakespearean manner, you know. and at one point has to call attention to himself because terrible things are happening, and in order to fool the bad guys, he dies even more extravagantly. So it's, and there's a wonderful relationship with his daughter, played by Avril Lavigne, a wonderful singer. She's singing, I don't sing. I'll conduct her. But it's a wonderful film with a wonderful cast, Bruce Willis et al. And I think the audience will be delighted with it.
So how is it different for you to play a really fun character in animation versus live action?
Well, animation is very much like radio, and I come out of radio. I did a lot of radio in Montreal, even as a kid, sort of playing Prince Charming of the fairy tales. So there would be a fairy tale show every Saturday morning, and I was Prince Charming, because Prince Charming is the same in every fairy tale. He arrives in the nick of time, gets the glass slipper, or saves the fairy princess from the witch. So I was Prince Charming on Montreal radio for a few years, and then I played teenage things in Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, and then I put myself through college on radio in Montreal, and then went on to Toronto and did a lot of Peabody-winning award shows. Those are big radio awards, faded from view now, but in those days they were like Oscars. And Canadian radio in those early days of my career was famous for radio drama. And that's what doing animated voices are like. They are like radio shows, except then later somebody draws an image to the specifications of whatever fits their movie, but your voice is there. And you have to color your voice because in radio it's the theater of the mind, and so to evoke the right thing, I have to do it a little differently than you would do it if there was a close-up on camera, which needs so much less. People expect less, you have to do less, but there is a character, a characteristic, a methodology to doing these voices frequently that is a little hyper, it's a little it's more real, if you will.
Well, hey, maybe it's just me, but I think William is pretty colorful already, animated or not. Now, don't go anywhere, because when we come back, the star answers your questions.
Hi, William Shatner. My name's Jenna from Indianapolis, Indiana, and I want to know, if you could have dinner with anyone, dead or alive, who would it be?
Welcome back to Close-Up's special tribute to William Shatner. In this segment, we wanted to give a few of his fans a chance to ask some of their own questions. So we took our camera and hit Hollywood Boulevard.
I want to know, if you could have dinner with anyone, dead or alive, who would it be?
I would like to have dinner with God. I'd like to know some answers to these mysterious things that we wonder about. I'm hopeful that when you die, all knowledge is revealed to you, so the mystery of the universe and the mystery of life and the spirit and all these grand things that we wonder about, whether they're revealed or not. So to ensure that this torment that people have about, well, what's the answer? Do you love me? It's all revealed. Yeah, but God then would probably just tear some fish apart, multiplying the fish, and it'd be raw fish, and it wouldn't be a very good dinner at all.
I just wanted to let you know that I've watched every episode of Star Trek, all of them, and I really like your acting, and I wanted to know what was it like to work with Sandra Bullock.
Who wasn't in Star Trek. But Sandra Bullock is great, wonderful. She's wonderful, great, funny, one of the boys, hard ass. She's really good.
I was wondering, what was your most embarrassing moment?
I've had so many of them that they crowd to be told, and I cannot say some of them in public. But embarrassing moments: falling into swimming pools, stumbling down hills, falling down, forgetting lines. I walked into an event with a tuxedo on and drove up to the hotel, walked down. There weren't too many people there. I didn't understand that. Maybe if they didn't want any publicity, walked down the stairs into the International Ballroom. And I was there a week early.
I'd like to know, what's the best job you've had since you've been out here?
I've been a really good lover over the years. It's a hell of a job.
That sounds like a great job. I'm sure you've had some grateful people for that.
Not grateful enough.
At 77, William is clearly enjoying this new and very successful chapter in his life. But with so many highlights already, how does this actor and family man want to be remembered?
How would I like to be remembered? As this wonderful, lean, athletic, handsome person who was brilliant in everything he played, roles he played, and was loved and loved more than anybody who ever lived. On the other hand, that's not the way I'm going to be remembered.
Oh, I can see
I can see a large part of that being the way that you're remembered.
Yeah, but it's that large part that I'm worried about.
That's it for this Close-Up from TV Guide Network, America's TV headquarters. I'm Madison Michelle. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.